morning and welcome to this online service here at the People's Church. In a few moments, Matt and Lydia will lead us in some opening sung worship, after which I will finish off the series on the blessing that we've been working through this last few weeks. I'm delighted you've been able to join us this morning. I trust and pray that God strengthens you and encourages you through our online service today. Thanks.
I have this hope as an anchor for my soul. Through every storm, I will hold to you. Within the sun, all my feelings swept away. In everything, I will trust in you. There is hope in the promise of the cross. You gave everything to save the world you love. And this hope is an anchor for my soul. Our God will stand unshakable. Mommy, I have this one. Unchanging one, who was and is to come. Your promise sure, you will not let go. There is hope in the promise of the cross. You gave everything to save the world you love. And this hope is an anchor for my soul. Our God will stand unshakable. I'm going to read what you do. Your name is higher. All my hope is in you. Your word unfailing, your promise unshaken. All my hope is in you. There is hope in the promise of the cross. You gave everything to save the world you love. And this hope is an anchor for my soul. My God will stand unshakable.
In 1979, a group of archaeologists were exploring an ancient burial site southwest of the old city of Jerusalem. At first, the caverns and burial chambers seemed to be bereft of objects of interest, but a persistent 13-year-old boy who was helping the team discovered that beneath the floor of one of the caves was a hidden chamber. There, the group found more than 1,000 ancient artifacts, including, most intriguingly of all, 2 tiny silver scrolls, no more than an inch long. They were so old and so fragile that it took the team over 3 years to figure out a way of unrolling these little scrolls without causing them to disintegrate. They were also able to date the scrolls themselves right back to the 6th century BCE, coming from the time of the prophet Jeremiah, a prophet we read about in the Bible, just prior to the destruction of the first temple, the one the Bible tells us was built by King Solomon. Eventually, the scrolls were unrolled and their secrets revealed. And amongst the numerous passages contained in the scrolls, there was a section from the book of Numbers, the chapter that we refer to as chapter 6, that contains the priestly blessing, the words of which that have inspired the song that we have been looking at over the last couple of weeks. And it's the words of that priestly blessing from Numbers chapter 6 that will serve as our text today. They are amongst the most ancient and shortest of blessings. They are a mere 15 words long, but they are marked by beauty and simplicity. Here is how the Bible sets forth this most ancient of blessings. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. So they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them." There is something almost poetic in the fact that it should have been this text that survived all those many thousands of years. It is amongst the oldest of prayers that are recited daily around the world by Christians and Jews to this day alike. We Christians, and certainly here at the People's Church, we often turn to these words at some of life's most joyous and some of life's most painful moments. You will hear them used to comfort people as they bury their loved ones at funerals. I love to pray these words over babies when we hold dedication services here at our church. And I made sure that these were the words my newborn son Ezekiel first heard me whisper into his ear moments after he entered the world. So let's take a few moments to look in more detail at the blessing itself and consider how the words and the faith that inspires them might shape and form our lives for the times we are living in. Let's look first of all at that opening line of the blessing. The Lord bless you and protect you. When our scriptures speak of blessing, they almost always mean material blessing. And against the idea basic to many other faith systems which perhaps embrace poverty or asceticism, or they somehow try to deny the goodness of material creation, biblical faith affirms the world as God's creation and that it is fundamentally good. It's perhaps worth saying that again. Biblical faith affirms the world as God's creation and that it is fundamentally good. And our Christian faith should neither be otherworldly, pie in the sky when you die, or anti-worldly. We are not against the world. It is precisely in the physical world, this earth given to us by God, that God's blessings are to be found and received. And the blessings that the priests are commanded to speak over the Hebrews, well, they are physical in nature. They concern their children and people's families. They concern the health and the strength and the well-being of people, their households and their businesses and their livelihoods. The words of the blessing themselves, given by God to the priests, reveal the good heart and the good intentions of our good and kind God. The words of this blessing, well, I have found them to be really helpful to me throughout this season, particularly as I have sought just to remain as prayerful as I possibly can. And as I have prayed the words and sat in the words and let them wash over me, particularly as I've listened to the song, I find that they keep on bringing me back time and time again to praying for people who have lost their jobs and for people whose jobs are under threat. It is evident that we are becoming as a nation less prosperous, and the full extent of that loss of prosperity is yet to be fully known. But what we do know is this: as of the 7th of June, approximately 8.9 million jobs from 1.1 million different employers were furloughed in the United Kingdom as part of the government's job retention scheme. That has understandably brought a lot of worry and insecurity to people living throughout our nation and indeed throughout our world. The Office of National Statistics had this to say: the levels of people reporting high levels of anxiety more than doubled when the economy went into hibernation at the end of March. More than half the adult population, that's 25 million people, said they were worried about their health, the security of their job, or having enough money to get by. And I know that this is something that is playing out in all our lives. And we who are people of faith, Christians who worship together at the People's Church, well, we are not immune to this fallout. And I know from numerous conversations that people connected directly and indirectly with our church have lost jobs, have had their jobs called into, brought into question, and resultantly people's lives have been severely impacted. I know from personal experience how utterly disorienting and fearful it feels to have your livelihood threatened. I learned that my job with my then employer was under threat on the 24th of April 2013. That's quite precise, and I remember the day well for a number of different reasons. I was sat on the Eurostar on my way back home from a day trip to Paris where I had just proposed to my wife. As we re-entered the UK, I stupidly, it has to be said, I decided to check in on my work email. And just as an idea, or just as an aside, that's never a good idea when you're off from work. But if you're doing that on the day that you're proposing, well, that's an even worse idea. So, word of advice, if you're planning on popping the big question anytime soon, make sure you leave your work email at home. Well, I have never felt as torn emotionally in my life as I did in those moments when I read the contents of the email. On one hand, the woman of my dreams had just agreed to marry me, a cause for much joy and celebration, particularly for me. But on the other hand, there, in all its brutal simplicity, the threat to my livelihood spelt out in that email. I remember the sense of dread I carried around with me, both in that moment and for the rest of that year. Serious questions needed an answer. How would I pay for the mortgage? Perhaps even more importantly, could I afford to get married? I searched frantically for new employment throughout the rest of that year. And I remember one particular moment in the course of my job hunt when I was turned down for the last of the jobs that I had applied for. I had run out of options and my spirit was broken, and my anxiety and fear, well, the levels were through the roof. And it was only when I had reached the end of my own resources that the Lord intervened in my life at that very time, and he did so from a surprising source, and he led me to a job and into a place where he wanted me to be. He provided, he created a job for me, and I use that word create deliberately to describe what he did for me in those moments, because it felt like an act of creation in my life. This is what Eugene Peterson has to say about the word create as it appears in Scripture. Create is a word used in the Bible exclusively with God as the subject. Men and women can't create, but God does. When nothing we can do makes any difference, and we are left standing around empty-handed and clueless, then we are ready to notice what God is creating now, today, all around us. And perhaps, and it often seems that way, that when the circumstances of our lives seem totally beyond our control, and I know that these times, well, they feel like for many of us that they are beyond our control. Perhaps when we are brought face to face with our inability to create and fashion and control the conditions of our lives, perhaps only then are we able to see what God, the only creator, is doing in our lives and in his world. It is, I believe, in the context of powerlessness, of not being able to create, that the words of this most ancient of blessing, the Lord bless you and protect you, well, it is only then that they have their greatest and most powerful resonance. Let's turn back to the words of that blessing as we finish our service today. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. So they will put my name on the Israelites and I will bless them." I draw your eye to that final verse. So they will put my name on the Israelites and I will bless them. What exactly does this mean? Well, quite simply it means that the priests, the ones charged by God to bless his people. They have no power in and of themselves to bless, to change or manipulate the physical conditions of existence, to change or shape circumstances or surroundings. Quite simply, they are intermediaries, they are channels through whom God's blessing flows. It is not the priests who bless the people, rather it is through them that God himself blesses the people. I find it intriguing that the New Testament picks up the language of the ancient priesthood and it applies it to us, followers of Jesus. And it was one of Jesus' first followers actually who said this: "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." And as God's chosen people, as God's royal priesthood and special possession, I urge you to press into your priestly work of blessing at this time, especially if you have come to the end of your own resources and resourcefulness, and especially on behalf of those who have run out of resource and resourcefulness, trusting that as we do, we can approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. And why would we have that confidence? Well, because we have a great high priest, Jesus, the Son of God, who is able to empathize with our weaknesses, who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet did not sin. And I invite you, as a priest of God, to do that right now. In these moments, to engage in your priestly work and your priestly calling as a follower of our great high priest, Jesus. And in the presence of Jesus, the great high priest, I invite you, perhaps where you're sitting in your living room and in your homes, wherever you might be, but to begin to name your own fears, anxieties and needs, and be quite specific with them today, especially about those that concern your livelihoods. And as you name them, well, add to them the names of your colleagues. I give you a moment to bring them to mind, and maybe just where you're set to quietly name them before the Lord and in his presence. If you are a person who perhaps runs your own business or is in a management position in an organisation, then I invite you to name employees and staff that you have responsibility for. And to that, add the names of friends and family members you know to be facing an uncertain future. And listen to the word of the Lord to them through us. This is how you are to bless them. The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you
and give you. peace. Lord bless you and keep you.
Make his face shine upon you
And be gracious to you.
The Lord turn his face toward you
and give you peace.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you
and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you
And give you peace.
Amen. Amen.
Pray a blessing, manna rain down from heaven. This isn't second guessing, we know that we are protected. May the peace that surpasses all understanding be our message. Grace and favors in your nature, in your
May
essence.
his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations,
And your family, and your children,
and the children, and the children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children.